Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Graham Yavina, and tonight we have a show for you. It's actually the morning, I should probably say the morning, but we're talking about the Miami Marlins because when I logged on today onto our baseball, that's Reddit's baseball forum, I saw an article I just had to click on. And the Miami Marlins today unveiled new City Connect uniforms that embrace the legacy, culture, and passion for baseball in South Florida. So, this is an article that was posted by Beyond the Bases, a blog sponsored, I think, by Major League Baseball. And the article says that the Marlins worked in conjunction with Nike and Major League Baseball to create a new look that features a modern remix of the Cuban Sugar Kings baseball team historical uniforms. The new City Connect uniforms will debut on Friday, May 21st, in 4 days, against the Mets. The Marlins today, the article goes on to say, all of what I'm about to say now is someone else's words, not mine. If there's art, I don't see the author here, but it's fine. Developed in partnership with Nike and MLB. Wait, I said that part. The Miami Marlins today unveiled the club's new City Connect Series uniform, developed and designed in partnership with Nike and MLB. The new uniform speaks to the legacy, culture, passion, and pride for baseball in the South Florida community, while celebrating the personality and confidence of our city. The Marlins City Connect uniform is inspired by Latin America's contribution to baseball, with a legacy red jersey that captures the energetic vibe and culture throughout South Florida and Latin America. The Marlins will debut the new uniform throughout the weekend of May 21st to May 23rd, following Cuban Independence Day on May 20th, and including the celebration of Cuban Heritage Night at Lone Depot Park on May 22nd. And there's a picture here, but I'll describe the uniforms. So the uniforms, the jersey will be bright red, cardinal blood red, and looks like a good color. Like, this is a good red. It's very Cuban, very vibrant. And the lettering is going to be baby blue and white, outlined Miami on the front, with large pinstripes that are spaced out pretty far, running down the jersey mane, and with the insignia Sugar Kings on the lower left-hand side of the jersey. And the hat is the nicest part because it's baby blue, red, and white, with the Miami Marlins 2 M's back-to-back, but the Kings logo on top referencing the Sugar Kings. And the colors shouldn't work, but I'm looking at it thinking, oh god, this is an improvement over the usual uniforms. I mean, this goes raw. I like it. And they have people wearing the jerseys, and they're really good. In fact, I almost wonder if they're selling them commercially on their website, because if they are, I will 100% buy every one in stock. I want this uniform for myself. I want that uniform. And I think there's the pitcher, Chipper Smith. He's wearing it too. Caleb Smith, sorry. And it's bright red. He's wearing a t-shirt. 1958 baseball. It's a good uniform. Our new City Connect uniform seeks to blend sports and lifestyle fashion, remixing the Sugar Kings' stylish uniform that embodies the unique sense of energy, passion, and swagger from our community, said Michael Shaw, Marlins Vice President of Experience and Innovation. Thanks to the collaborative efforts with Nike, we developed a refresh of a legendary uniform with a modernized look that embodies the legacy and heritage of past generations and embraces the future of our city. We're looking forward to seeing our players and our fans wear the new look at the ballpark and around the city with a sense of pride and excitement. The Cuban Sugar Kings took the field each day with the dream of becoming the first MLB franchise outside of the United States and held the motto of Un paso más y llegamos. One more step and we arrive. Owned and guided by the vision of Bobby Maduro, the Sugar Kings were a groundbreaking team that inspired their country and beyond as one of the first clubs to field a multinational team with players from all over Latin America. They played with a passion that inspired the love and growth of baseball throughout the world. With the launch of a new uniform, the Sugar Kings have finally arrived in the major leagues. The Marlins introduced the club's City Connect uniform this morning on social media, working with Marlins players and cultural influencers across South Florida who embodied the cultura of the community. The Nike City Center Connect hats and jerseys are available today, May 17th, at the New Era Team Store at Lone Depot Park, a Fanatics experience, as well as marlins.com/cityconnect, the Nike app, Nike.com, and select retail locations. You know what? I'm going to actually try to open the tab up right now. I want this. My birthday is coming up in June, so I might just have to put in a good word to Santa or whoever does birthdays. I don't know to get me this. It looks really cool. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so way more than you wanted to know, but I'm reading the comments on Reddit, and everyone loves them. It's gotten a lot of approval, which is pretty rare on Reddit. And what they're saying in the comments is, someone wrote, quote, "I'm pretty sure every team is getting a City Connect jersey in the next couple of seasons, so I would assume these will be around for a while." And someone else responded with a quote from Bleacher Nation saying that in MLB, these alternate uniforms will be called the City Connect Series, and the Red Sox are just the first of 7 teams to get the Nike treatment this year. The Red Sox, Marlins, White Sox, Cubs, Diamondbacks, Giants, and the Dodgers will have their reveal dates already scheduled, and every team will get a jersey by the end of a 2023 season. So if this is what I think it means, I think they're going to make new jerseys that try to basically embody the style of their native cities, which I think is actually a great idea. I mean, just think about what a Detroit uniform will look like. One that's not the Tigers, but like one of Motown. That'd be great. And maybe have one from California, that like maybe the Bay Area, that's really involved in Bay Area. And maybe have a uniform that maybe looks like stylish graffiti on the back. Or maybe you have a New York team that has, I don't know, like an apple on it or something. That was dumb, but like, you get the point. There are lots of ways you can go here. And that sounds really amazing. I mean, that sounds really cool. Imagine in Chicago, North Side and South Side versions. And I don't even know what the Diamondbacks are going to have because their uniform is already pretty far out there. Man, this looks good. I mean, this looks really good. I'm excited about that. All right, so now we've done that. And I want to mention that also on our baseball is one of the worst umpire calls I've ever seen. So I want to preface this by saying that I don't know if the title here is accurate. But the title on our baseball reads, from Twitter, "Love to see baseball bloodlines. Angel Hernandez Jr. really is a chip off the old block." Now the video link obviously is of an umpire blowing a call in a college game. Now, I don't know if this umpire is really Angel Hernandez Jr. or just some other random guy who made a bad call. But this call is really bad. So I saw this last night on video when my mom showed me the play on her phone, and today it's made it to the top of our baseball. So this is between my alma mater of Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. So I went to Ole Miss for my MBA. I graduated last month, and I'm looking at the video, and the pitcher is playing against a 6'7" batter from Vanderbilt. The pitcher has got 2 strikes. I think it's like a 1-2 count. Runner at second base. The catcher, Hayden Dunhurst, puts down his sign and crouches towards a low and inside fastball. The pitcher picks his leg up, drives, and fires a fastball. And the ball is low. In fact, the catcher catches it on the ground. So the pitcher throws a ball, and the catcher catches it about an inch away from the ground. And the catcher starts to throw back to the pitcher, but the umpire rings up the batter. And the catcher is so surprised that he just kind of hesitates, and then he runs off the field before the umpire can change his mind. And I can't describe it adequately in words, but you throw it, and, the catcher's glove hits the ground. It's that low to the ground. And the catcher is already expecting to throw it back. The batter starts to readjust for the next pitch. The umpire pulls a strike, and everybody in the stadium, and this is at home with the Ole Miss Rebels. At home, the home team fans start groaning because they know the umpire blew the call. And if I saw it, then who knows how many people saw it too. Rob Friedman of Pitching Ninja fame tweeted it, and it's got 2,000 likes, and everyone's roasting the umpire who did that. They're saying that, let's see, so Friedman basically did reactions isolated. He's showing people in stands that are just kind of surprised. Yeah, college baseball, what can I say about that? That was a really bad call. You're probably thinking, geez, Graham, get to the point. But I wish I'd show you this call because it's really bad. So I saw today, too, that, yesterday, y'all know that Pujols was designated for assignment and was signed to a contract by not the Cardinals, but the Dodgers. Can you believe that? First of all, imagine Pujols in blue. I can't even imagine that. But apparently he's going to be a very limited player this year, only be a pinch hitter, and sort of provide mentorship and guidance to the younger Dodgers players. Seems like a weird fit. As if I couldn't hate the Dodgers anymore, you know? You couldn't just be concerned with being the most wealthy team in baseball and also the best. You have to go ahead and buy up every single player. Pujols should not end his career as a Dodger. He just shouldn't. If there's any justice, he'd go back to playing for the Cardinals, and that'll be that. But it's just a weird fit. So, obviously, the Dodgers can go, unkindly do something to themselves. I don't care. Then there's a picture on Our Baseball that has an opening day picture of the Polo Grounds, which is still the coolest stadium in the world, I'd say. I don't think it's there anymore. I think it got torn down. That's really cool. Oh, and here's an interesting thread. Someone asked, who is the most famous player of all time with a negative career WAR? Oh, this should be good. You know what? Let me go ahead and analyze this. Who is the best player of all time, or the most famous player with a negative career WAR? Now, I don't specify if it's Fangraphs WAR or Baseball Reference WAR. I enjoy using Baseball Reference WAR because it's based on true output like ERA as opposed to FIP, which seems to be more of a fantasy than anything else. But let's just go ahead and put them into Baseball Reference and see what happens. So the top response with 47 comments is Tommy Lasorda. Tommy Lasorda. Of course, more famous as a manager, but he was once a promising pitcher. So let me go ahead and look him up. Yeah, his WAR was negative 1.3. Lasorda pitched in 26 games over 3 years. He started 6 of those games. ERA first of 6.48, FIP of 6.2, ERA plus of 67, strikes per 9 of 5.7, walks per 9 of 8.6, whip of 1.87. Yeah, he sucked. He was not a good player. Hall of Fame manager, though. And I met him once, I have to say. Then, by the way, if you want to see something depressing, look up Lasorda's relationship with his son. Lasorda and his son had a tragic relationship, and you have to see it. So, the next response, number 2, is Mario Mendoza. And he was a guy who is famous for the eponymous Mendoza line, which is where if you're batting below 200, that's the Mendoza line. So, Mendoza actually batted .215 for his career, and he was known as a slick fielding shortstop. He played for 9 years, OPS plus of 41, OPS of 507, which is just tragic. That's even worse as batting average. Because people like Joey Gallo or Mark Reynolds hit like 220 every year, but they hit bombs, so it's fine. But Mendoza's OPS was 507. That is pitiful. Let me compare Mark Reynolds, a guy who has a similarly low batting average. So for his career, Reynolds batted .236, about 20 points better than Mendoza's, but still not great. But his slugging was .453 for an OPS of 780. So he was 3% better as a hitter than the average player at his position. Mendoza was 59% worse of a hitter at his position than everybody else. 507 OPS. Mark Reynolds' slugging was almost better than Mendoza's OPS, on base plus slugging. He couldn't get on base, couldn't hit for power. He had 4 home runs his entire career. He couldn't steal bases, 12 in his career. He did nothing. He was basically a pitcher for his entire career. And he was a good fielder, but not so good that it made up for anything. Like his defensive WAR over 9 seasons was 4, which is about half a run saved per year. But he also cost his team about half a run per year. So for his career, his WAR was negative 2.6. That's pretty bad. And I did not expect that. I thought his defensive WAR was going to make up for it somehow. Billy Beane, the future Hall of Fame general manager of the Oakland A's of Moneyball infamy, had a playing WAR of negative 1.6. Herb Washington. Herb Washington was the pinch runner that Charles Finley hired to run for slower players. So this is actually a great story. You know, I'll tell it. I'll spend last minute and 30 seconds of this segment talking about Herb Washington. So Herb was an Olympic sprinter who was hired by Charles Finley to basically pinch run for his players every time they got on base. So he didn't bat, he didn't play the field, he just ran for the Oakland A's. His first year at 22 years old, he stole 29 bases. But in the World Series of the year, he was picked off first base by Mike Marshall and embarrassed himself. His WAR was negative 0.4 because his defensive WAR was negative 3.0. I think that he... I'm not sure how it factors in, but he still cost his team runs because he got caught stealing 16 times. So he was fast but couldn't do anything at all. So just because he was the fastest man in the world when he signed with the Oakland A's, that didn't save him from being a below-average player. And someone else mentioned what's probably the best answer here is that Rabbit Moranville, despite having a career WAR of 42.9, was a terrible hitter with an OPS plus of 82, a slugging of below 350. Moranville is one of the worst Hall of Famers in the Hall, But these days, his career WAR is at 42 is still pretty good, I'd say. So who knows? And Bob Uecker, the comedian and the broadcaster, had career WAR of -1. He was a catcher. Okay, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to do another segment after the break. Stay tuned for more. We're talking about scores from around the league, only at the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Thank you very much.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to The Break. This is the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm still Graham. And today we're still talking about the updates from around the league. My cat has now left my lap. She's going to go ahead and sniff the books on the table, the coffee, and my cell phone for some reason. Now she's walking across at the TV, and I don't know what her plan is. I assume she's going to go ahead and do something disruptive pretty soon. Nope, she's jumped off. There you go. She'll be back. All right, so I want to go ahead and just briefly update you on the performances from around the league. The standings so far. We've now played roughly 40 games. And, sorry for that noise. We've now played roughly 40 games. And that's about one quarter of the way through the season. So this point, at the 1 quarter mark, this should be a slight indication of how the rest of the year is going to go. A week ago, I would have said, well, it's too early. It's too early. At this point, I don't know. 25% of anything is pretty sizable. You can't ignore, like, if 25% of the public hates your product, you can't ignore that. And at this point, 25% of the season is gone. Some teams have done well. Some teams have done very poorly. And at this point, we can almost forecast how the rest of the year is going to go. I don't know how common it is for teams to be in last place at the quarter mark of the season and recuperate to first or second place. But I think if you're a last place team at this point, the odds of you making the playoffs have to be pretty close to zero. It's just too big of a lead. For example, the worst team in the AL East is 7 games behind the leader. The worst team in the AL Central is 10.5 games behind the leader. The worst team in the AL West is 7 games back. NL East, 3. Maybe that one's fine. Central, 5.5. West, 9.5. With the exception, possibly, of the NL East, I would say that you can probably forecast how the rest of the year is going to go for every other division. At least in terms of who's definitely not going to make it back. So, let's go and start with the AL East. The AL. So, the first is the Red Sox. The Red Sox are 25-17. 25-17. They are 13-12 at home, 12-5 on the road, for a run differential of plus 45. They've lost their most recent game, but for the last 10 games, they are 6-4. They're stagnant at this point, which is fine. Then coming up is the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are 22-17, 1.5 games back from the Red Sox. 9-5 at home, 13-12 on the road. They have scored 192 runs. They've allowed 156. Do the math, that's a plus 36 run differential. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the Red Sox have plus 45 differential. And differential, as I'm fond of saying, is the number of runs you score versus the runs you allow. And it's usually used as a predictor of real performance. So if you have a winning record, but you've got a negative run differential, you probably won't have a winning record for very long. So if the Red Sox are leading their division, and they've played 42 games, and they've got differential plus 45, they've been scoring on average slightly more than 1 run per game, more than their opponents. They'll probably be in the lead for a long time. Although the Blue Jays are right on their heels. Plus 36 run differential. They've won their last 2 games. Last 10, they're 7-3. Hot ball club. They're doing well. Then there's the Yankees at number 3. They are 22-18. Winning percentage of .550. They are 2 games back. At home, they are 11-9. On the road, they are also 11-9. They have a differential of plus 11. But considering the money they spent this offseason, how they got Garrett Cole and how they spent so much money, you'd almost expect them to be doing better. No? Number 4 is the Rays. The Rays also have a positive record at 23-19. Percentage of .548. They are 11-12 at home, but 12-7 on the road. Their differential is plus 20. So if anything, the Rays should have a better record than the Yankees. The Rays have also won their last 4 ball games in a row, and they're 6-10 for their last 10 games. Rounding out the division is the Orioles at 17-23. They are 7 games back of a leader. They are 6-15 at home. 6-15 at home. That's pretty bad. But away, they have a winning record of 11-18, which I suppose they take comfort in. After that, their differential is, brace yourself, negative 23. And with a differential of negative 23, at that point, whatever the record is, they probably deserved it. Last 10 games, they are 3-7. Ouch. In the AL Central, there's the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox are 24-15. Their differential is plus 61. And they are 8-10 in their last 10 games. The White Sox, hats off. At your pace, you'll be winning close to 100 ball games. That's really good. Number 2 is the Indians. At 21-17, they are 2.5 games behind the White Sox. At home, they're 10-7. Away, 11-10. Differential, plus 10. Although they have lost the last 3 games. Then there's the Royals at number 3. They are 18-22. 6.5 games back, nearly a week. Differential of negative 30. 2-8 over their last 10 games. And this is a team that for a while was leading their division. So, ouch. Then there's the Tigers. The Tigers were previously the worst team in their division. Not anymore. They're now number 4. 14-26. 350 winning percentage. Abysmal. That's like 60 wins prorated. They are 10.5 games back. They are terrible at home, 9-12. Terrible on the road, 5-14. Differential of negative 69. And remember, they played 40 games. So that's almost 2 runs per game they've been getting outscored by their opponents. Although, they are 6-4 on their last 10 games, which means that they're now slightly better than their division, I guess, rival in suckitude with the Twins. The Twins are now 13-25 with a 342 winning percentage, 10.5 games back, 17-13 at home, 6-12 on the road, negative 20 run differential, 2-8 over the last 10 games. The Twins have cratered. In the AL West, next up is the Athletics, Number 1 in their division, 25-17. -8 run differential, though, -8. You know, I said that if a team has negative run differential, they might not be leading for long. I predict, considering how the Astros are 24-17, half a game back, but their differential is plus 56, and the Astros have won the last 6 games in a row, 8-10 or last 12. The Astros will be winning by the end of the week. Quote me on that. Put it down. Number 3 is the Mariners, 21-20. 3.5 games back, -16 run differential. They've won 3 games in a row, though. Last 10 games, 4-6. I've always liked the Mariners. Hope they compete. Then, because life isn't fair, and I guess God decided that Mike Trout's never going to make the postseason again, the Angels are 17-22. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani are having career years, and it might not be enough anymore. 17-22 are the Angels, and I'm sure it's their pitching to blame, because they've scored 173 runs, and they've allowed 220, the most in their division. In fact, the most in the American League. Angels pitchers have allowed the most runs in the league, and the runs scored are about league average. So they are -47 in terms of run differential. 6.5 games back of division leader Athletics. And then finally, there's the Rangers at 18-24, 7 games back, -20 differential. They've lost for the last 6 games. Ouch. Now we're moving on to National League. National League and the NL East is if it surprises me, number 1 is the Mets. Number 1 is the Mets. See, the Mets are 18-16. You know what's funny? Like, the Cardinals are 23-18, but the Mets are 18-16. So some teams have just played a lot more games than others. It's kind of a weird season. Again, might not get back to normal till after the pandemic passes. But the Mets are 18-16, 11-4 at home, 7-12 on the road, differential of -10. That's not good. Lost the last 3 games. Might not be lead much longer. But the Phillies are 21-20. Excuse me. Half a game back. Lost for the last 7 games. Lost 2 in a row. Then there's the Braves. 19-21. Lost for the last 2 games. Sorry, they're 2 games back. They've lost their last game, and their differential is -15. The only team here with a positive run differential is number 4, the Marlins, my second favorite team, at 18-22. 3 games back, +5 differential, but they have a losing record now. They should be better than what they're playing right now, but I guess it's just luck at this point. The worst team is the Nationals at 16-20. They have a -9 differential. But all the teams are close to one another. The difference between the Mets and the Nationals is 3 games. Anything could happen. I predict if the Marlins continue to pitch well and to score runs, they will leave their division eventually. I really hope so. In the NL Central, the Cards are winning 23-18. No games back. 12-8 at home. 11-10 on the road. Differential of +14. They've lost 3 games in a row, though. And they didn't pick up Albert Pujols either. Maybe by design, because he's old and can't DH in the NL. I don't know. But the Cards missed opportunity there for just some feel-good moments. Although Arenado is playing better these days. It's good to hear. The Brewers are number 2 in their division. Despite having Corbin Burns on the bump for him and Brandon Woodruff, they are still number 2 with a -16 run differential at 21-20, 2 games back of division leader Cardinals. Number 3 is Cincinnati Reds at even 19-19, playing 500 ball, 2.5 games back, +2 run differential. And they've won their last 2 games. Good for them. By the way, the Reds should really change their logo because it looks way too damn similar to the Cubs. Can't tell them apart without glasses. The Cubs are up next. Number 4 in the NL Central, 19-20. 3 games back. -2 differential. Not much to say about that, except the Cubs should be playing better. No excuse. But we get to a huge drop-off between the Cubs and the Pirates. The Pirates are 17-23, 5.5 games back. Differential of, brace yourself, negative 44. That is one less run per game than they scored their opponents. That's really bad. Now we move on to the NL West. In the NL West, we have the Giants at 24-16. No games back. They're leading their division. They've allowed only 140 runs on defense for a differential of plus 33. Then there's the Padres up next. They are 24-17, only half a game back of the Giants. Their differential is plus 40, and they've allowed 3 less runs than the Giants. They've scored 4 more too. They've scored an extra 7 runs more than their opponents, but they're half a game back. But the Padres are red hot. They've won their last 3 games in a row. The Padres are looking like the team to beat. And the Dodgers, of course, even though they're playing worse than what the record would entail, their differential is the best in the NL at plus 49. They're only number 3 in their division, 2 games back of the Giants. What if both wildcard spots go to the Padres and the Giants and the Dodgers win their division again? It will be mayhem. The NL West is looking like, again, baseball's best division. So the Giants, Padres, and Dodgers are playing really well. The Diamondbacks and the Rockies, not so much. So my Diamondbacks, my team, is now 18-23. We are 6.5 games back. We're 9-9 at home, playing even ball. We're 9-14 on the road. We've scored 194 runs. We've scored more runs than the Giants or the Padres, which is good. But we've allowed 214 runs, which is more than all but the Rockies. So our differential is negative 20. And our streak for the last 10 games is 3-7. So Diamondbacks just can't pitch. Even after Zach Allen and Madison Bumgarner threw their gems two weeks ago, that's not enough for us. We can't do it. Then there's the Rockies, our kissing cousins in the Alps. 15-26, 3.66 record, so the worst record in the NL. 9.5 games back. Yeah, who knew trading Nolan Arenado was going to be such a bad move? They are 2-14 away from Coors for a differential of negative 26. 3-7 our last 10 games. Ouch. Straight up ouch. So if we do wildcard predictions, the wildcard, if you don't know, I think it's now 3 teams per league. I think that's still the case. Let me check that real fast. Yeah, so the Wild Card for America League ranked. The Astros and the Jays have it now. Okay, so it's just 2 per league at this point. 2 per league. The Astros and the Jays have it. The Astros are +1 over the Jays because the Astros are 24-17. Remember, the Athletics are leading their division. But the Astros have a differential of +56. They've won their last 6 games, 8-10 over the last 10 games. They're probably going to win their division straight up. But if they don't, they've got the wild card on lockdown. And at this rate, they've got the home field advantage too. Their rivals are the Jays, who have been playing very well as well. Their differential is +36, a full 20 runs lower, or half a run per game lower than the Astros, but still pretty damn good. They're 22-17. Now, on the outside looking in are the Indians, the Yankees, and the Rays, all at half a game back of the Jays for the wild card spot. The Indians are +10 differential, Yankees are +11, the Rays are +20. The Rays right now are looking like a team to beat, but the Astros and the Jays are both extraordinarily strong wildcard teams for this point in the year. Good for them. Now in the NL, the wildcard teams are the Padres and the Dodgers. No surprise there. I don't know if we've ever had 2 wildcard teams from the same division before. I don't think we have, but if we did, it'll be a first. And the Padres are up by half a game and 1.5 games over the Dodgers. Differential +40, although the Dodgers have the best differential in the NL, a +49. So both really good teams. if it ends today, the Padres will have home field advantage. It looks like the worst team in baseball at this point. The worst team in baseball is the Twins at .342 winning percentage. Second worst is the Tigers at .350. Third worst is the Rockies at .366. So, if the season ended right now, they would have the first 3 picks in the 2022 MLB draft. Okay, that ends this section. Stay tuned after the break. We'll be talking about stats from around the league and what happened for recaps last game around. Stay tuned for more, only at the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Thank you very much.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And we're back. We talked last semester? I'm going to start calling these episodes semesters and give you grades. Hey, you get an F for not paying attention. You get a D- for getting a trivia question wrong. By the way, I'm doing this thing now where I keep forgetting to tell you the answer to the trivia question. I keep forgetting to tell you. So here is the new trivia question, and let's see if you get this one right, okay? I'll tell you the answer after the break, and we'll see if you get it right or not. If you get it wrong, you're not allowed to listen to podcasts anymore. So the question is, as we all know, players from Japan have to enter an elaborate posting system, wherein a Major League Ball club, let's say it's your favorite, Arizona Diamondbacks, gives the Japanese ball club, let's say it's the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters, they give them money and have to negotiate for the right to win a bid. And if you win the bid, you have the right to negotiate with the player exclusively. So negotiations for Major League free agents are non-exclusive, but negotiations for Japanese players are exclusive. You pay the Japanese team money to let their player go, and then you pay that player money to sign with your team exclusively. Isn't that kind of weird? So the way that works is that, you're probably wondering at this point, isn't that going to be super expensive? Yes. The average Japanese free agent is going to cost more money in total than the average American free agent once you add in the posting fee. But sans posting fee, most Japanese ball players are actually reasonably priced. So a Japanese ball player might cost like $16 million if they're elite, and their team might demand $25 million, so $41 million, but the contract can be multi-year. So that might average out to like over 3 seasons, maybe like $20 million per season, which might be more inexpensive than hiring Max Scherzer, for instance. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's the posting system. And lots of great players from Japan came over via the posting system. My question to you is, who was the first Japanese player which Japanese player was the impetus behind the rule that led to posting? Was it A, Kazuhito Sasaki, B, Hideki Matsui, C, Hideki Irabu, or D, Kei Igawa? Let me know which player of those 4 caused the posting system in Japan. Again, it's Kazuhito Sasaki, Hideki Matsui, Hideki Irabu, or Keiagawa. Let me know who did it. Okay, now we're back to Reddit. And I love Reddit, my favorite website in the world. I also hate it because it's so predictable. I don't even read the threads anymore. I can just tell by the title and the community name what's going to happen in the comment section. So, one of the things that happened yesterday is that Manny Machado was basically running towards second base. The second baseman for the Cardinals, Tommy Edman, fielded the ground ball in between first and second base. So he was standing in the base paths and fielded a ground ball in between first and second base. And then Machado slid at his legs, despite the fact that Edman was in the middle of the base paths. And now, of course, our baseball is totally on the Manny Machado defense train. Oh, he's just an innocent bull. He doesn't know what he's doing wrong. And it's like, do you have any idea who Machado is? He's been involved in like 12 of these incidents before. And by the way, that was dirty slide. So eat me if you think it was wrong. Okay. So then after that, the Dodgers formally signed Albert Pujols to a 1-year Major League contract. It's happening. It's for real. He will be wearing number 55, because Corey Seager already has number 5. Now, if I was Corey Seager, I'd change my number out of deference for Pujols. But Seager's a star now, and Pujols isn't anymore, so Pujols might have changed the number to 55. Everything feels wrong about this, doesn't it? Pujols said that he has no hard feelings at all towards the Angels, and also said that he never told them that he wanted to play every day. The Angels just never could make it work with him. And now Pujols says that he won't decide about retirement until after the season ends. So this could be the last year Pujols is in a uniform, period. Now, I want Pujols to end his career as a Cardinal because it's just poetic justice. He deserves to go out on top. His home city of his team winning and leading the stands. You want Pujols to retire as a Cardinal. But they already have Goldschmidt as their first baseman. So the question gets to be, and they have no DH. They have no DH, so he can't play third base, can't play left field. They're a contending team. They have an all-star first baseman already. Pujols doesn't fit in the lineup. He really is just a backup first baseman and pinch hitter at this point. So the question is, how do you make that work? I don't know if you do. So it's all wrong. Everything's wrong about this. It's early. It's only May. We're only in our second month of baseball. Maybe by September, the Cardinals will somehow make a deal with the Dodgers so they release him and then they sign him to like a one-day contract. I don't know, but hopefully he doesn't retire as a damn Dodger. That would be so wrong. So wrong. Okay, some more fun facts. Who do you think is the best second baseman in baseball? Altuve? No. Ketel Marte? Not really. Whit Merrifield? No. The answer now is Marcus Semien, who leads all MLB second basemen in wins above replacement. Which, wow. And the funny thing is that the Athletics now have, for their second baseman, they're trying to figure out if they wanted Semien. So they let Semien go and they signed Elvis Andrus to replace him, who now has, well, he's on pace for a WAR of negative 3.1, which is just incredible. So the Athletics never signed Semien, and now he's doing great, which is just incredible. He's on pace for now 6 wins above replacement. 6 wins above replacement, playing for the Rays. And, yeah. No, he's playing for the Jays now. That was dumb. Playing for the Jays. Pretty great. Now, I want to mention that Toronto has 8 top 100 prospects in baseball, which is the most in the major leagues. They have Austin Martin, Nate Pearson, who is a friend of one of the friends of the show. I have a good friend named Hunter Tubbs, who is just a fan. He loves the show. He's one of my classmates at the business school. Great friend. Apparently he knows Nate Pearson. Good luck, Nate. We love you back in Birmingham. Then there's Jordan Groshans, Simeon Woods Richardson, who was a two-way player back in high school, by the way. Alejandro Kirk, a Mexican catcher, who is probably my favorite player in baseball now. Orelvis Martinez, we love him. Alek Manoah, good. And Gabriel Moreno. So that's the Blue Jays. They have now 8 prospects in the top 100 list. Excellent. Can't beat that. Okay, moving on from there. Now, here's a fun fact. And this is not a trivia question. This is just a fun fact. Someone on Reddit posted a statistic which reads, most runs created in a month since 1901. Okay, so what do you think is the most runs created in a month? Well, it's Babe Ruth, 62.2. Second most is Joe DiMaggio, 60.1. Third is Lou Gehrig, 59.2. Fourth is some guy, they won't tell us a year because that'd be too much of a clue, who had 58. And 5 is Babe Ruth again. So it's who has the most runs created in a month since 1901. Number 4 on the all-time list. I don't know. I'm going to guess someone prodigious. I'm going to guess Rogers Hornsby. Let's find out. Let me look at the comments, see if anyone got it right. Jesus, no. So the answer is Richard Hidalgo in 2000. I would have never gotten that right. Jesus Christ, that's crazy. So, yeah, he's the only guy in the top 20 of that list who isn't an all-time great. Now, he actually went ahead and pulled up the entire list, and so number 4 is Richard Hidalgo, which is, I never would have gotten it right. 5th is Babe Ruth. 6 is Ty Cobb. He was my second guess. 7 is Mickey Mantle. 8 is Tris Speaker. 9 is Babe Ruth again. 10 is George Sisler. 11 is Barry Bonds. 12 is Hornsby, my guess. 13 is Charlie Gehringer. 14 is Babe Ruth again. 15 is Mickey Mantle. 16 is Chuck Klein. 17 is Rogers Hornsby again. 18 is Babe Ruth. 19 is Babe Ruth. 20 is Frank Thomas. Tied for 20 is also Rogers Hornsby again. So Hornsby wasn't a bad guess, but the answer of Richard Hidalgo would blow my mind. So Hidalgo's from Venezuela. He has a WAR of 19.2, 171 home runs, 269 batting average, 835 OPS, 110 OPS plus. His career spanned from 97 to 2005. Yeah, I would have never gotten that right. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Just Jesus. So that year he was 25 and placed 20th in MVP voting because he had 44 home runs. Clearly juiced. Has to be juiced. Yeah. Okay. So, and my juice, we're talking about steroids, kids, just so you know. All right, I want to read out loud baseball statistics and give you guys just some idea of who's leading in the major leagues. So we're going to do batting average first. And I'm going to this is combined, all positions, both leagues. Let's see if you get any of these right, okay? So number 1 for batting average is still, Jesus Christ, Yermin Mercedes. 35 games, the rookie catcher, batting .358. OP on-base percentage of .406, slugging of .545, OPS of .951, WAR of 1.3. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. We're a quarter of the way through the season, right? So 1.3 times 4, that's 5.2. I mean, it should be higher, shouldn't it? If he's batting .951 as a catcher. I'm not sure if it's Fangraphs WAR reference or probably Fangraphs WAR, but still. Maybe his defense just isn't very good. Okay, number 2 is Yordan Alvarez, who's batting .348. OPS of .974. WAR of 1.3. Good. Looks like they moved him to left field. Not playing first base anymore. It's pretty weird. I'm probably not a good fielder out there because he's pretty tall and immobile. Third is Xander Bogaerts, shortstop for the Red Sox, batting .344. He's off to a great start. His WAR is 2.0. He's doing great. Should draft him for my fantasy league. Thought about it. He was on the clock. I just didn't do it, and now I've got one hell of a price to pay. That's bad. Then number 4 is Jesse Winker. And some genius picked him one pick ahead of me. There was like Alex Verdugo and Winker, and they were like 2 picks ahead of me, and someone got them both consecutively and had to go settle for someone else. So I'm pretty upset about that, because Winker's pretty great. He's batting .344, on base .400, slugging a .602, OPS of 1.002, a WAR of only 1.0 though, because defense is notoriously terrible. Doesn't matter in fantasy leagues, but matters in real life. And number 5 is JD Martinez from Hialeah, Florida, .342. 2.1 WAR. Martinez doing great this year. You know what I'm upset about? We had the number 1 overall pick in my fantasy draft. And my good friend Thomas was like, dude, let's pick Mookie Betts. And that's the conventional consensus pick, because Mookie's got power and speed and contact and glove. And I get that Mookie's great, but I wanted Mike Trout, and but you know, Mookie, so I said, okay, let's go for Mookie. I get it, because he's got speed, and Trout can't steal a base anymore, so Mookie, let's do it. Mookie is nowhere on the top 50 list for batting average. Not hitting for contact, not hitting for power. Where is Mookie? I don't know. But Mookie's gone. And now, it's like, well, we should have gotten Mike Trout, because Mike Trout batting .333 this year. His OPS is 1.086, the highest on this list so far. WAR 2.1. Mike Trout's having another amazing season. It's like, jeez, should have gone him instead. Well, can't live in the past. So, let's do home runs now. Who do you think, viewer? I don't know where you're at right now. Probably in the bathroom, avoiding going back to your desk for work. Who do you think is leading the major leagues in home runs? Well, if you get Shohei Ohtani, because he's been on the news every single day now for some reason, you'd be right. Shohei Ohtani has hit 12 home runs, which is incredible considering how he's mostly a pitcher. He's a pitcher. And he started a game a few days ago, pitched 7 innings. He did a great job, and he's at 12 home runs. Shohei Ohtani, he's coming into his own, and I love watching him play. Everyone says that he's just a natural athlete. He can run fast. He's got the 7th fastest sprint speed in all baseball, behind only like Trey Turner and Billy Hamilton. He's got power. He can throw 100 miles an hour. He can pitch. What can't he do? So Shohei Ohtani might be baseball's preeminent 5-tool player. And yes, I'm saying that even with guys like Fernando Tatis and Acuna playing, because Shohei can pitch, and they can't do that. Okay, so tied also number 12, with 12 home runs, number 1 with 12 home runs. There's Acuna Jr., there's Mitch Haniger, who I should have picked and didn't. Wait, I think I did pick him. Did I pick him? I think I did pick him. Let me check my ESPN Fantasy Baseball login, because, let me see. I think I did pick him. I don't want to lie to you and be like, I didn't, but if I picked him, and I think I did, then that's great. Okay. Baseball, let me check this out. This is great, because you're like thinking, like, what's going on here? Okay, I'm on Mega Padres Fan. Let me check this out. Yeah, I can't tell anymore. Okay, it would take too long to go ahead and dig it out, but I'm pretty sure I picked up Haniger. And that might have been a great call, because he's just hit 12 home runs this year. We'd love to see that. We didn't expect that. Also, Aaron Judge. It's weird, because every time I see Judge play on TV, he's like always striking out. But every time I like look away and look at stats, he's doing great. So far, he's batting .298, 12 home runs, .399 on base, .611 slugging, OPS of 1.009, WAR of 1.4. So Aaron Judge is doing great. Got to give it to him. He's doing great. He figured it out. He figured things out. And after that, we move on to 11 home runs. Freddie Freeman, Jose Ramirez, Rafael Devers, and Vladdy Jr. have all got 11 home runs, which is 44 prorated. The only surprising name on this list so far is Eduardo Escobar, who has hit 9 home runs for the Diamondbacks, which is great, but he's also hitting .214 for an OPS of 707. So all he's doing is hitting home runs. He can't do anything else, but He's my Diamondback. I like that guy. And so that's home runs. And let's go to the guys who hit 10 home runs. J.D. Martinez hit 10 home runs. Nick Castellanos, who made headlines because a fan egged him on to imagine that the baseball's Commissioner Manfred's head, and that was a viral video. Go check it out. Just Google Nick Castellanos fan, and like you'll see a clip from 2 days ago popping up all over the internet. Chris Bryant's hit 10 home runs, and Adolis Garcia has hit 10 home runs. 40 home runs prorated over a full season. Okay, that's it for this part of the podcast. Stick around for the final part. I'll give you the answer trivia question, and I'll tell you stories from my book over here, Who's on Worst by Flip Bondi. If you love the baseball podcast, you'll love the stories coming up next. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you after the break.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. This is the last leg of the cycle. That's never a baseball reference. And we're talking about statistics. But first, let's tell you about the answer to trivia question, shall we? So I asked you before the break about the posting system in Japan. And by the way, if you've ever gone to Japan, let me know. Like, leave a review and be like, hey, Graham, Japan is okay. Or whatever you think about it. But I had one friend from my MBA program named Drew who lived in Japan for a while. Good for him. Japan sounds awesome. And they have a posting system where if you want to sign a player from Japan, you must first pay the team that owns the player's contract. You must pay them like a bid and bid for the right to negotiate with that player. If the team accepts your bid, then you have exclusive negotiating rights to that player. It's a very interesting dichotomy. Like, I wonder, like, what happens if, like, you negotiate with a player and it just doesn't work? like you negotiate and they just don't want you. Do they go back to their team? Do they sign up a different team? Like, how does that work? I don't know enough about that, but I do know who started that process. I asked you which player in his journey to become a major league player led to the formation of the posting system. A. Wait, who's the guy? A. Kazuhito Sasaki. B. Hideki Matsui. C. Hideki Irabu. Or D. Kei Igawa. Now, a recap of each one. The first one, Kazuhito Sasaki, was the first ever Japanese player in the big leagues. Reliever for the Mariners for several years. Great closer for a while. He was the first player and the first pitcher who's born in Japan to make it to the big leagues. Good for him. Second, Hideki Matsui, of course, was the beast from the East, the slugger that played for the Yankees and the Athletics for a long time from Japan. Third is Hideki Irabu, who played for the Yankees and was signed by Steinbrenner and was called the Japanese Nolan Ryan. And fourth is Kei Igawa, who was the Yankees' biggest acquisition ever for a Japanese pitcher for many years. So the question is, who was the player that started the posting system process? And the answer is C, Hideki Irabu. Irabu signed with the Yankees. Sorry, no. What happened was Irabu signed a contract. Wait, geez, I need to get my story straight. Okay. What happened was, back in the late 90s, the San Diego Padres, out of nowhere, signed Hideki Irabu to a contract. Hideki Irabu was the single best pitcher in Japan that time. He was basically like Garrett Cole in Japan. They call him the Japanese Nolan Ryan. He had a fastball that was in the mid-90s and a split-finger fastball that just dove and hit the ground and struck out a league-leading 233 batters that year. So what happened was the Padres paid his team, the Chiba Lot Marines, millions of dollars for the right to purchase Irabu's contract. And just like that, Irabu headed to San Diego. But then Irabu complained. He was never consulted on whether he wanted to play for Padres or not. Irabu was a Yankees fan. The Yankees at this time, remember, were the 90s Yankees. They were really good. They had Derek Jeter, they had A-Rod, they had Mussina, and Pettit, and David Wells, Posada. They were Paul O'Neill, Bernie Williams. They were the Yankees. And they had won all these World Series back in the 90s, and they were the best team in baseball. They were the Dodgers back then, the best team in baseball. And Irabu wanted to play with them. He was never asked about how he felt about the Padres. So when they bought him and not the Yankees, he was upset. He was never asked. But all he knew is that the Padres paid his club some money, and now he was being traded to the Padres. So Irabu said hell no and didn't want to do it. And he broke off negotiations with the Padres and refused to show up. And then he signed a contract with the Yankees afterwards. And the Yankees happily took him on. And the commissioner launched an investigation, and everyone agreed that the whole process was shoddy. And other teams were upset because they didn't realize Irabu was available. Like, if the Nationals had the Expos had known that Irabu was even an option, they would have tried to pursue him too. But they didn't, and the Padres got points for being clever, but they lost Irabu anyway because he went to the Yankees. Just a messy, ugly situation. So then the new rule was everyone will bid every offseason for the right to negotiate with a player by paying the team some money to talk with a player. And once they do, they thereafter have exclusive contract negotiation rights with the player. And that's how it is today. So, Irabu started it. He was not the first player born in Japan to play in baseball, but he was the first to establish the posting system. And by the way, Irabu was not a great player. Let's talk about him, actually. Let's talk about Irabu. Let's talk about him. I don't care. Let's do it. Hideki Irabu. Google. Click on the wrong link. That's bad. Okay. Here we go. So Irabu was 6'4", 240 pounds, rotund from Hirara, Japan. And he played in Japan since he was young. He played Japanese baseball since he was 19 years old. In his last year in 1996, for the Shiba Lot Marines, Irabu went 12-6 with a 2.4 ERA, 157 innings pitched, 167 strikeouts, 9.6 strikeouts per nine, and won the IG Sawamura Award, which is their version of the Cy Young Award, given to the best pitcher of NPB, Nippon Pro Baseball, that year in Japan. After that, he went to the Yankees under the conditions I told you about earlier. In 97 for the Yankees, Irabu went 5-4 with 7.09 ERA in 53 innings. His ERA plus was 64, meaning that he was 36% worse than the average pitcher at the time, for a 5.85 FIP, fielding independent pitching. Struck out a lot of batters, but walked a lot of batters too. Gave up home runs, gave up lots of hits, for a whip of 1.7, rounded, and a WAR of negative 0.9. His salary that year was $2.3 million, which I understand was a lot at the time. Inflation's really kind of gone up since then. 1998 was a little bit better. 13-9, 4.06 ERA, 9% better than league average, 126 strikeouts, but his strikeouts per nine dipped a lot, from 9.5 to 6.6. His WAR was 2.6, which is respectable. 9% better than league average, made most of his starts, 2.6. Okay, good. But that was his pinnacle of his career. Next year he fell apart. 11-7 record, 4.84 ERA, 4.49 FIP, 97 ERA plus, WAR of 2.0. So he was perfectly league average, except he was getting paid $3 million, which at the time was a lot more. Got shipped to Montreal in 2000 at 31 years old, had an ERA of 7.24, and then after that, he played another season for Montreal, played for the Rangers, and retired at the age of 33. Overall, his WAR for his career was 3.4, his ERA was 5.14, WHIP of 1.4. 405 strikeouts and 514 innings, despite being billed as a strikeout artist. And later, he committed suicide at the age of 42 in Palos Verdes, California. He did it because his wife left him and took the kids with her. But same day, he just got drunk and just did the deed. Poor guy. So there is a lot of pressure on ball players to succeed. And one of these days, if I'm ever allowed, I will do a podcast on crime in baseball. Believe me, there's a lot of material there. I could easily do an entire 80-minute episode on all the crimes that baseball players have been involved with, and especially all of the stuff that they've done or had happened to them. I could easily do it. I mean, Ugi Ubina killed somebody with a machete. Danny Goodwin was bad. I mean, there's a lot of ways I can go here, but this is tragic for me. Baseball is such a high-pressure game and leaves you with some mental illness if you go from the best player in the world to being the worst in a new country. I can't imagine what that would do to you. Anyway, we're talking about home runs, and now we talk about average, we talk about home runs, let's talk about RBIs. Let's just do a few. The leader in RBIs in all of Major League Baseball is Rafael Devers at 34. Next up is JD Martinez at 33. Then Jose Abreu at 33, and Aguilar at 32. And for OPS, the crude metric of just who is just the best hitter in baseball, Mike Trout at 1.086. Second place is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at 1.049. Third place is Acuna at 1.042. I have no idea where Mookie Betts is, but we clearly got the call wrong on that one. Number 1 overall pick, and Asdrubal Cabrera is hitting better than he is. Just ouch, straight up. Yeah, I don't even see Mookie in here. Okay. And then the WAR, the leader in WAR is Byron Buxton. So Buxton has only played in 24 games, has had 70 less at-bats than most people on this list, and yet his WAR is 2.8. So his OPS is 1.180, which would be the best on his list if he had enough plate appearances to qualify. But since he doesn't, he's hitting really well, and his defense is doing great too because he's always been a good defender. So he's doing great. Then next on the list is Isaiah Keiner Filetha, whose OPS is only 7.88. But because he's playing third base and catcher and shortstop, second base, and the outfield, I'm sure his defense is making up the rest. The fact that his WAR is an entire 300 points below Buxton, and yet his WAR is only 0.2 different. Filetha's defense must be just incredible this year. Then number 3 is Max Muncy, and then number 4 is Vladdy Jr., 5 is JD Martinez, and 6 is Mike Trout. All above 2.0. That's great. Great news. Number 7 is Carson Kelly, the Diamondbacks catcher, 2.1. Don't know how that happened, but I'm happy it did. Happy it did. Anyway, that's enough. I want to say for tonight's games, tonight, it's Monday night tonight, Monday, May 17th. Giants and the Reds are playing each other. Mets and Braves are playing each other. White Sox and Twins are playing each other. Nationals and Cubs are playing each other. Yankees and Rangers are playing each other. Indians and Angels. Diamondbacks and Dodgers. Rockies and Padres. And finally, the Tigers and the Mariners. So, don't miss any of those games. Stay tuned for all of them. We want to see that. And now, let's talk about some stories. So on my left, I've got this book called Who's on Worst by Philip Bondi. And it's a book that kind of talks about the most overrated players, the worst hitters, the worst pitchers, just everything. And it's entertaining because you don't know a lot of his history. I know I didn't. So for me, whenever I read this, it's like, wow, I forgot that. This book was back in my closet. I dug it out just now. Had to shake out the dust from it. So hopefully, it'll be a nice distraction. Let's talk about it. So, this chapter is called The Most Overpaid Yankees. So he divided this into Yankees or not Yankees, which is just the saltiest thing you could possibly do. Not even mad at that. But yeah, I like the Yankees, but they do spend a lot of money. They do spend a lot of money with just wanton, reckless spending. Just incredible. So then we talk about how, let's see, let me go ahead and open this up. All right, number one on Philip Bondi's list for the most overpaid Yankee is the aforementioned Kagawa. So let me go ahead and read this out to you. The number one worst overpay for the Yankees of all time was Kagawa and his $46 million price tag. The Yankees have thrown money at lots of players, many of them unworthy of such bonanzas. And in the first decade of the 21st century, the overly optimistic evaluations of free agents were legion, from Jarrett Wright to A.J. Burnett. But when it came to scouting and investment gaffes, the lefty starter, Kagawa, always stood far above the rest. Igawa was a superstar in Japan, averaging 15 victories per year over his last 5 years with the Hanshin Tigers, while leading the Japan Central League in strikeouts during each of those 4 seasons. But there is already considerable evidence that pitching well in Japan doesn't necessarily translate to pitching well in real life in the majors. In 2006, the Hanshin Tigers posted Igawa, the process by which the NPB organized an international auction. The Yankees were hungry for starters at the time, particularly left-handers, and the club's Far East scouts were telling Brian Cashman, my voice gave out at the end, that Igawa was the real deal. The Yanks had just lost a bidding war for another Japanese starter, Daisuke Matsuzaka, signed by the arch-rival Red Sox to an outlandish 6-year, $52 million pact, in addition to a $51.1 million posting fee to Seibu Lions. By the way, I feel really old now because I remember when Daisuke Matsuzaka was young and like the next hot thing. And now it's like, geez, that happened a long time ago. By the way, Matsuzaka he played 8 years in the big leagues, has a WAR of 9.4. Didn't really seem to work out that well, but he was so hyped in his first year. Had one good season and then just was mediocre after that. Anyway, I digress. So, they go on to mention, the Yanks, after losing out to Daisuke Matsuzaka, settled for Igawa, their second choice. Igawa, the Yankees paid Hanshin $26 million in 194. Those last 3 numbers were Igawa's strikeout totals in the year before, for the rights to negotiate with Igawa. And then they signed Igawa for $20 million over 5 seasons, increasing the total deal to around $46 million over 5 years. So that's about $9 million per season to break even. During his first press conference, Igawa promised extraordinary things and wrote a blog in English saying, "I feel a burden of anxiety at the opening of my first season in the majors, but it is overwhelmed by the excitement of being a home player standing on the field at Yankee Stadium. I will strive to do my best at all times." So Igawa strived, but he never thrived. He was hardworking, sincere, and modest, but he also failed. In his first start on April 7th at Yankee Stadium against the Orioles, he allowed 7 earned runs in 5 innings. And he didn't improve. In fact, let me go and open up his stats from Baseball Reference. Okay. Yeah, he just didn't get better from there. So, within weeks, Igawa was just struggling big time. And Cashman and Joe Torre, the manager, realized that they had a problem. They have a $1 million ace who can't pitch. So then they sent Igawa to Tampa after 1 month on May 7th to work on his mechanics and to just try to focus on a lower stressed environment with Nardi Contreras and Billy Connors, their pitching coordinators. The coaches try to reinvent Igawa's delivery, including having him change his arm angle to pushing off a different way, and even change his position on the mound from the left side to the right side the way he stood on the mound. But it didn't work. Igawa gave up a lot of home runs, 2 per game, walked 5 batters per game, struck out 7, and just gave up 10 hits per game for a whip of about 1.67 in the big leagues. Too much. So Igawa just couldn't hack it, and he finished with a 2-4 record in 16 games in his major league career, for an ERA of 6.66 for his career. The Yankees had therefore paid $2.88 million for each of his wins. The Yankees paid about $2.88 million for each of his appearances in the major leagues, or, with his 2 wins, around $23 million per win, which is just incredible. But the good news is that Igawa just filled his contract. He didn't quit. When it was over, he went back to Japan, finished out his career under friendly stadiums, and counseled many young players who pitched with him in Trenton. Japanese tourists come out of the stadium, he wished them well. So Igawa, by all accounts, was a nice guy and a good person who was a success in Japan, just wasn't in America. But still, he succeeded at the highest level. He got major league batters out, and we will always be thankful for the memories brought to us. Takei Igawa, man, have a beer, man. This one's for you. Thanks for accomplishing your dreams and teaching us that we're all capable of being whatever we want to be every day. You mean a lot to us. And with that, that concludes this episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day, and stay safe out there. Peace.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.